Welcome to SVG-TV's news for Friday, March 15th, 2024. I'm Triska Campbell with the details. A number of Vincentians, members of the visiting Garafuna delegation and members of the diplomatic corps came together on National Heroes Day, Thursday, March 14th, 2024, at the obelisk here at Dorset Hill to pay homage to this country's lone national hero, Garafuna Chief, the Right Excellent Joseph Chatoyer. This year's ceremony marked the 229th anniversary of the death of Paramount Chief Joseph Chatoyer, who has been described as a badge of honor shining against the splendid apparel of the nation's history by committee member of the National Garafuna Heritage Foundation, Marlon Joseph. Joseph told the ceremony that Chatoyer continues to be an ideal representation of courage, resilience, and determination in the face of adversity.
We honor this incomparable defender of Europe with a 21-gun salute. Each year, beyond the explosion and smell of gunpowder, we are provoked to reflect upon his death in the field of battle, where he sacrificed his life to save the people of this land and to preserve the values that continue to be precious breaths within the Vincentian body politic. The values of nationalism and self-determination are still central to our sense of nationhood, 229 years after Chatoyer's death and 227 years after the exile of our Garafuna brothers and sisters. Today, as we pay homage to Chief Chatoyer, let us remember also the principle of equality that drove the Garafuna to see themselves as no less than the colonizers, and therefore just as deserving of their liberty. Let us also remember the principle of justice that drove them to oppose the dishonest appropriation of their lands. Let us also remember the principle of inclusivity that drove them to fight to the death against alienation. These principles must be a part of our moral monument to Chatoyer as we aspire to build a society where every individual has the opportunity to thrive and contribute to the collective advancement of our nation.
Minister of Tourism, Culture and Sustainable Development, Carlos James, said the annual event at the obelisk is not just to pay homage to the legacy of Joseph Chatoyer, but it is also a symbol of our resilience as a people, more particularly the indigenous people who reside here and in the diaspora.
It is also a recognition of our journey from conquest, colonialization, migration, and our struggles from exploitation and injustice, even amidst our post-colonial challenges, which continue to affect our people profoundly. As Frantz Fanon eloquently puts it, each generation must discover its mission, fulfill it, or betray it. It is the idea that each generation has its own unique challenges and responsibilities, and it must find its purpose and its mission in the context of its time. Our growth as a civilization is chronicled in the many things before us. Our right to self-determination, or a creative imagination fostered by an immersion of the rhythms of Africa and cultivated by the dynamic process of our Caribbean creolization. Our development as a country and a people with leaders who have emerged from the very bowels of our working class formulates the concept of our Caribbean identity in its post-colonial formations.
Leader of the opposition, Dr. Godwin Friday, in his remarks at the wreath-laying ceremony, told the gathering that it is a special day to pause and reflect on the journeys we have undertaken as a people, singularly and together. this year and a moment to look forward to how we can build the country.
We have battled through many challenges, many challenges in recent times. Nevertheless, we have much to celebrate and to be thankful for. We have life. We have family and friends. We have community. We have our beautiful country. Most of all, we have the grace and the mercy of God. But though we may be consumed with our own trials and challenges, we cannot forget the great sorrow that our forebears lived and witnessed over 2 centuries ago. That is the exile and the near extermination of the Garafuna people. And lest we are tempted to absolve the perpetrators of this monstrous crime by saying it was a different age and a different time, and that morals and mores excused and accommodated such actions, we should think again, for it was not so long ago. It was not the Dark Ages. In Europe, it was a time of enlightenment and progress, of science and art, a time of fervent and burgeoning Christianity, which taught us that we are all God's children and must love one another as we love ourselves.
Dr. Friday said the servants of British imperialism knew what they were doing when they hunted the Garafuna warriors and starved them into submission, noting that they were following a deliberate plan. On the accusation of Baliso and making it a protective heritage site of SVG, Dr. Friday said it is a timely and a welcome as with reparatory justice for the harm that was done to our ancestors.
But of course, the declaration of Baliso as a heritage site is not really a cause for celebration. Celebration would not be the right way to describe it, for there is too much suffering and pain underlying that act of recognition and preservation. There is too much death and sorrow on Baliso, too many graves of our captive ancestors, and we do not celebrate in a graveyard. Rather, the preservation of Baliso would be a solemn act of recognition of that pain and suffering, and it will be a promise that they will never be forgotten, and that we will forever mourn those who suffered and died in the genocide. We owe it to them because it is upon their struggle and their indomitable spirit that we now continue to build our nation. The obstacles we confront today may appear different, but the struggle is the same for human dignity and a people's sovereignty. Every year at this time, we here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we reflect on this tragedy. But for the descendants of the exiled Garafuna, it is far more than a cause for reflection, as we have heard today. It is a great sorrow, a sense of loss, a yearning to return, to make a journey that their tormentors, the tormentors of their forebears, never intended them to make. But you're here today. Beyond the monuments and the sacred places we properly recognize, there are the lessons we have learned from our Garafuna ancestors that may help us on the way forward. The first is this: no matter the hardship, persevere. Keep moving forward.
In his address at the ceremony, Prime Minister Dr. Afghan Sav said St. Vincent and the Grenadines has a special place in the historiography of the Caribbean, having had the shortest period of the enslavement of African bodies from 1764 to 1838, because of its rugged terrain and because of the determination of the Kalinago and the Garafuna not to be colonialized.
And Chatoyer, whom we celebrate. You know why I celebrate Chatoyer? I celebrate him because he lives in me. My mother and father died. It's a period of great pain and suffering. And I mourned. But every single day, I remember my mother and father with joy, with love, and their teachings and their example. So while I have pain for the death of Chatoyer, and while I have pain and suffering for the 2,000 and something persons who died in a 6 months period on Baliso, nobody must ask me not to celebrate them because they live every day in me. You hear me? I can mourn. I can feel the pain. I can be solemn. And at the same time, I can celebrate. I can be joyous. Because redemption is a joy. Redemption may come from a pain, from suffering. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning, and it will come for us when we get Baliso in our hands. So those who may wish to weep and gnash their teeth in solemnity can do that. But I will celebrate for joy and commune with the spirits of our ancestors and go to Almighty God in thanks and gratitude for seeing that day where a historic wrong would be righted.
The Prime Minister noted that he wrote to the Chief Surveyor on January 2nd on the acquisition of Baliso by the government of SVG as a cultural historic memorial site. He said he was hoping that the transaction, purchase or acquisition would be effected before March 14, 2024. He said they have not been able to get it done because they went late to Baliso to do the evaluation. However, the Chief Surveyor is in communication with the lawyers for the owners and the Attorney General. His office is carrying out a title search to see whether those who say they are the owners are in fact the owners. The Prime Minister further told the gathering that saying one must follow the example of Joseph Chatoyer must not be worn as an adornment, a costume, or as a pretense. It must be felt in the heart and mind and act upon it.
In 2001, there was a large divide between what used to be called Carib country and the South. Raboka Dry River, 2 or 3 football field in width. And when rain came into the mountains and the river come down, anything passing at the base of the river get washed away and people died. When we said that we would build a bridge there, they say Ralph is a crazy man. But the spirit of Chatoyer told me that I was very sane. And those who thought I was crazy, them are the one who should have been in the mental hospital. Because our government was fortified by this spirit. And by the way, it is this spirit of Chatoyer which I firmly believe in for the defense of our sovereignty and independence. Why I will never be party, and I'll say it here on Heroes Day, never be party to selling our passport or selling our citizenship. Chatoyer would not have approved of it. Citizenship is the highest office in the land. It's not a commodity for sale. Despite all kind of blandishments, Chatoyer didn't sell it, you know. And the passport is the outward sign of the inward grace of citizenship. So I ain't talking no flowery words to you. I am talking issues which come from the mind and the heart and the interests of the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
The Prime Minister said he is confident that if not now, sometime in the future, there will be reparation for Native genocide and the enslavement of African bodies. On the matter of selecting other notable Vincentians for national hero status, the Prime Minister said names such as George Augustus McIntosh, Ebenezer Theodore Joshua, Robert Milton Cato, and Dr. J.P. Eustace are being considered.
But there's been further discussion, and the idea that the pantheon of heroes ought not to be entirely masculine. There is more than one woman in our history who can reasonably be considered to be elevated to the status of national hero. So we would wish that conversation to go on, and hopefully in the not too distant future we can bring that conversation to an end, and then I will advise the Governor General accordingly under the National Heroes Act.
Meanwhile, representatives of the visiting Garafuna Homecoming Team 2024, which included the Euromin Royal Delegation and the Garafuna Rites of Passage and Pilgrimages, in their greetings at the wreath-laying ceremony, praised the effort of Prime Minister Dr. Afghan Saus and his government for seeking to acquire Baliso, which they deem as significant for the people of Euromi, St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
I want to take this opportunity to thank the Prime Minister and his team for making a desperate attempt to acquire Baliso and make it a national heritage, UNESCO national heritage. And it is quite, as we stand here on this very sacred soil where our ancestors, Chatoyer and our other fighters, sacrificed their life here.
As I arrived here in St. Vincent in 2017, Dr. Gonzalez opened up St. Vincent to his last brothers and sisters. My heart, for the first time, I felt a place that you call home. The tears kept rolling. I am finally home. I can drop my swords. The defense mechanism is gone. Dr. Gonzalez, you welcome us and you always explain to us that we are family.
We want to name the Paramount Chief Joseph Chatoyer. We want to name his beloved Barauda Chatoyer. We want to name Sarah Baptiste. We want to name Duvalier Chatoyer. We want to name Peter Valentine. We want to name James Daniel. These names are brethren and sistren of St. Vincent and the Grenadines who toiled on the land and fought for the people. May they rest in peace. We will not and shall not forget you.
Baliso, oh Baliso, land of rebirth. Take no credit in your role of ending centuries of resistance to colonial gold. For our ancestors' lamentations, carried on the wind in supplication, hastened the sunset on thy empire, while everywhere, both near and far, Joseph Chatoyer's descendants, like phoenixes, have arisen, restoring our language, our culture, our bravery, our gallantry, our history.
At the wreath-laying ceremony, Dr. Gonzalez received a humanitarian award for championing the cause for reclaiming Baliso for the 2023 International Indigenous Film Festival. President of the Garafuna Heritage Foundation, Ziola Ellis Brown, also received an award for championing the cause of cultural preservation in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The community of Greggs was swarmed with Vincentians and visitors for the annual National Heroes Day Heritage Festival at the Greggs Playing Field. The community was transformed into a tribal Garafuna village with huts that were occupied by persons preparing authentic traditional dishes, including crayfish and callaloo soup, conch water, madungo bakes and codfish, cocoa tea, fried dumpling and fungi. There were also a number of local crafts on exhibition. Several of the vendors ensured to display their Garafuna spirit by dressing in tribal and traditional wear.
Ladies and gentlemen, I callaloo soup with crayfish, the boy and catfish, and blackfish, and the boy, if you want madungo dumpling and blackfish. I have some conch fritters frying here.
Conch fritters?
Yeah, you blend the conch along with your seasonings, your onion, your garlic, your green chive, and you make the conch fritters and you fry it. I also have fungi and catfish, crayfish soup, and conch water as usual. The fungi from the starch, the arrowroot.
Right.
It's nice. You're only using like salt, and you could put a pimento pepper inside of it, and you make sure the water boil. Because if the water ain't boil, it might turn like porridge. So you boil the water, and then you throw it in and you start mash it up for it. Not to be lumpy like this. But this is the right fungi, because if it's lump, it won't cook properly.
Basically, I have jewelry for earring, necklace, natural bead, imported bead.
This is moringa. I made it in capsules, moringa capsules. Okay. This is detox for the system. And I made my own cream from marijuana oil and shea butter and stuff like that. Dandelion root capsules. This is basically brana for the men. All right. Marijuana wine. Yes, different fruit wines also.
In an interview with the Agency for Public Information, the vendors showcased cassava bread, locally known as Bam Bam, while highlighting the several ways cassava bread can be used in meals. They also had on showcase locally made wines, including sorrel wine and Goonie punch.
Yeah, you could use it as a sandwich. You could break it up and make it like a tea, like a biscuit in the milk. You could do a lot of things. To make it come Bam Bam, you grate the cassava, you squeeze out the juice, you put it for dry, and you get Bam Bam. The farine, you grind it out, you squeeze it, you put it for dry, you put it in the copper, you give him a shuffle until it come in fine like how you want it for farine. So the Bam Bam, about 4 minutes the Bam Bam take to finish.
Rum products. This one is called Guinea Punch. It's made with Guinness, supplicant, lots of ingredients, milk and so forth, and rum. I'm promoting St. Vincent Sunset rum, so all my products have rum in them. So I do a lemon and lime rum, golden apple rum, a sorrel rum as well. And rum has a lot of good qualities. It is also medicinal. But I haven't come out with my medicinal stuff yet. So I'm here promoting that.
The Fancy Unity Farmers Cooperative, in collaboration with the North Windward Tourism Organization, also hosted their annual National Heroes Day Festival yesterday, featuring a variety of local foods and cultural performances. This is the 19th year the Fancy Unity Farmers Cooperative is hosting the National Heroes Day Festival. Delivering brief remarks at the opening ceremony was Dr. Anesquisia, an African chief from Nigeria who now resides in California in the USA. He told the gathering that he is on a mission to reunite African diaspora, especially the EBU tribes in the Western Hemisphere.
For all you people have been doing, I was sent by my people. I'm a king, I'm a medical doctor, and I working with the university. They want to track what happened to our people that came out to the Caribbean and to America, people who came enslaved or people who came free. They want to know what's happening to you. They want me to confirm that you're doing well. So I've seen everything looks very good. You're living in paradise. Everybody looks healthy. I don't see anybody looks hungry. So I will let them know doing well. We want to have continuous relationship. We want to maintain the culture. We want to work with you. We want to, Igbo people, Igbo nation, which I represent, want to work with the Garafunas. Thank you very much.
Deputy Prime Minister and Area Representative Montgomery Daniel in his address said that the history of SVG is rich and as a people we ought to preserve it, noting, however, that as we reflect on our historical journey, we cannot continue to dwell on the past as we must pave the way for the future.
We share the pain and suffering from 1795 onwards. It is important that we fashion a way forward so that our youth can continue to recognize the historical journey our foreparents would have had. Just like you, I was born and I grew up in the Garafuna communities. At one time I was a teacher right here in Fancy, like Dr. Kajin Gill, who was a little ahead of me. But we shared the culture that existed at the time. But we are very much concerned that the wickedness that the British did to us would have caused us to lose a people, to lose a language, and to lose a culture. And today, how we welcome our brothers and sisters who continue to work with us to rekindle and to regain our culture. It is very important as we look at our way forward as to what we can do bearing our historical path.
Minister Daniel said he is happy with the decision of the government to acquire Baliso, where our forefathers toiled and suffered at the hands of the British.
That island will now be in the hands of the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And it is where all of our Garifuna people can go and pay homage to all of our foreparents who suffered long and hard on that island. Ladies and gentlemen, today we celebrate National Heroes Day 2024. We do so reflecting on the past. And so, while we reflect, we celebrate. Because we cannot live in the past. And so I urge you, let our history be our focus. Let it be that vehicle to take us into the future where we can all be proud of where we come from and where we are going.
St. Vincent and the Grenadines today joined the international community in celebrating World Consumer Rights Day 2024 under the theme Fair and Responsible AI for All Consumers, which seeks to highlight concerns such as misinformation, privacy violations, and discriminatory practices, and how AI-driven platforms can spread fake information and perpetrate biases. In an address to mark the occasion, a minister with responsibility for consumer affairs, Frederick Stevenson, said although world economies are recovering at a slower pace than anticipated, not yet back to the pre-pandemic level, economies are still plagued with the stubborn issues of the ongoing wars in the Ukraine and Gaza, supply chain issues, high freight costs, soaring food prices, and climate change, which continues to pose serious challenges. The minister said, notwithstanding these issues, the government of SVG stands united with the rest of the global community in celebration of World Consumer Rights Day 2024. He said the national theme chose for this day is Consumer Rights, Everybody's Business, noting that World Consumer Rights Day is dedicated to highlight the powers of the consumers and their rights for a fair, safe, and sustainable marketplace for everyone. Minister Stevenson said his government is mindful of the myriad of concerns, challenges, and vulnerabilities consumers face when conducting business and remains focused and committed to the advancement of consumer interest through ongoing policy and legislative changes.
The government has already passed several pieces of legislation to provide for the promotion and protection of the interest and welfare of consumers. The Consumer Protection Act number 12 of 2020, which became operational on the 1st of September 2022, is the first comprehensive piece of legislation which sets out a framework that consolidates in one place key consumer protection rights exercisable in relation to the supply of goods and services. It establishes the duties and obligations of suppliers and administrative and legal frameworks for the identification of violations involving the supply of goods or services, the physical and financial security of consumers, unfair trade practices and transactions, and unfair contract terms. Conducting business in this new environment is filled with opportunities and challenges. The opportunities we must seize while we must collectively minimize and address the challenges through updated legislations and more robust policies that safeguard consumers' welfare and interests. In this regard, work has commenced on reviewing 5 model draft legislations prepared by the CARICOM Secretariat to support and strengthen the implementation of the provisions of the Consumer Protection Act in member states of the CARICOM community. The drafts include 1. Used motor vehicles, 2. Country of origin for clothing and footwear, 3. The right to know country of origin of food, 4. Timeshare, and 5. General regulations.
Additionally, Stevenson said the Consumer Protection Tribunal, which was appointed on June 1st, 2023, is functional and operational and have already heard several consumer complaints cases referred to it by the Department of Consumer Affairs, with other cases scheduled to be heard soon by the tribunal, and he encouraged consumers to get to know their rights and responsibilities.
My government is ensuring that it remains at the forefront regarding consumer protection, while at the same time empowering consumers through the promotion of their interests. In this regard, the Department of Consumer Affairs convened and will continue to convene several town hall meetings in various communities, towns and villages to spread the consumer message as part of its consumer protection empowerment awareness campaigns. Fellow consumers, other activities including meetings, whistle stops, etc. are scheduled for the remainder of the year as we continue to reach out to you, our consumers. I'd like to encourage and urge all consumers to get to know their consumer rights and responsibilities, but more importantly, become familiar with the Consumer Protection Act number 12 of 2020. The world's market is no longer restricted or narrowed by physical borders. Technology and innovation have made what once seemed impossible possible. The world is one global marketplace and space. In spite of the setbacks and challenges of one sort or the other that are trending today, The government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines will continue to empower its consumers to do more in securing and protecting their own interests. And so, on behalf of the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and on my own behalf, I'd like to once again wish you a happy World Consumer Rights Day 2024.
World Kidney Day was observed yesterday, Thursday, March 14, 2024, under the theme Advancing Equitable Access to Care and Optimal Medication Practices. The day is dedicated to raising awareness on the disease, preventative measures, and the importance of early detection. Nephrologist Dr. Tawana Brown-Caesar, who was a guest virtually on NBC Radio's face-to-face program today, said that 60 patients are receiving public chemodialysis at the Modern Medical and Diagnostic Center in Georgetown as a result of chronic kidney disease. Dr. Brown-Caesar said last year they recorded 14 deaths as a result of kidney failure, which include 8 males and 6 females. She said, quite notably, some of the patients came in as emergencies, not necessarily relating it to the chronic disorders that cause kidney failure.
I do tell persons that persons who are on dialysis have a higher rate of death than persons who are not. And that is just a statistical fact. We want you, if you have kidney disease, to progress as slowly as possible to requiring this service. Although it can sustain lives for years, more than likely the same underlying disorders that cause your kidneys to fail, they have also affected other organs like your heart and your brain. And the majority of patients on dialysis who die on dialysis die from other things other than related to the kidney disease. So we see the strokes, we see the heart attacks, we see infections sometimes. They may have a bad bout of pneumonia. Those who have catheters in sometimes have catheter infections that are quite severe, but the majority of those are treatable with hemodialysis. So that's what we looked at last year.
Dr. Brown-Caesar used the opportunity to encourage persons who are currently battling with chronic kidney disease to seek care, noting that it is not a death sentence.
As it advances, the symptoms become more, but we try to work with you. Persons who have mild versions of kidney disease, when they initially come, their concern is, Doc, would I need dialysis? I say, hey, you're far off, So the majority of persons do not have advanced kidney disease, will not need dialysis in the near future. And many of them, especially as you get older, would likely not need it in their entire lifetime. But we cannot know this unless you're initially evaluated. We have your chronic disorders under control. And whether it's me or your primary care physician, your diabetes still needs to be controlled, your hypertension still needs to be controlled, and ignoring it does not improve the outcome. So let us continue to work together to recognize the theme of kidney health for all as we continue to advocate for equitable kidney health for everybody and in advances in that field.